right? So if it's a 10x technology improvement, let's just say it only captures 2x the market cap.
Got it.
Right. And so again, if it was to capture just gold's market cap, kind of the equivalent, puts you around $500,000. Right. So you can kind of see
single Bitcoin. So if you capture the entirety of the gold market, then it would be value of a single Bitcoin. The price of a single Bitcoin would be $500,000.
So if you then say to yourself, okay, how does the pricing kind of cycles work, right? Or the boom and bust cycles? Gold is a very kind of linear type supply schedule, meaning that there is a certain amount of gold that comes out of the ground each year. The inter-year variation in that incoming supply is not much, right? Maybe there's an extra mining company that gets set up, or a couple of them, or maybe one goes out of business. But for the most part, the kind of inflationary increase to the supply of gold is pretty stagnant year over year. Bitcoin has a very unique feature, which every 4 years, there's a programmatic supply shock, meaning that in the beginning, 50 Bitcoin every 10 minutes was introduced into the supply. After 4 years of that happening every 10 minutes, it was cut in half. So on in a single moment, it went from 50 to now it was 25. 4 years, every 10 minutes, 25, got cut in half again to 12 and a half. And then recently in May 2020, got cut to 6.25. When you have an asset that is determined, the price, based on supply and demand, you normally have two inputs to the equation. What is the supply and what is the demand? In an asset like gold or a stock or anything else, we have to do our best guess at the supply, both the existing supply and the incoming supply, and then do our best guess at the demand. And we're actually pretty good at this a lot of times in terms of directionally saying it's going to go up or down, and here's kind of some price point milestones. Bitcoin's unique in that there's 100% verifiable proof of the existing supply, the total supply, and the incoming daily supply. So we know 100% I can show you on the actual blockchain or in the code that there's 21 million Bitcoin. And that's all there will ever be. I can show you that there's 18.6 million, give or take, Bitcoin that actually are in circulation today, right? And I can go all the way back and show you every single transaction that's ever occurred since January through 2009. And then I can show you on a daily basis that 900 Bitcoin a day are coming into the circulating supply. And so when you have 100% confidence, because you can prove the supply side of this equation, you can hold it constant. I know with 100% accuracy the supply side. So now I've reduced the mathematical equation that I need to do to determine price movements to a 50% reduction. I only have to worry about demand. I don't have to worry about supply. Mm-hmm. And so when I look at demand, I can do all kinds of things. I can take the demand over the last 10 years and the growth and just extrapolate it out. I can increase it. I can decrease it, whatever. But what you find is that these supply shocks lead to significant price appreciation as the asset gets repriced because there's a supply shock to it. And so probably the best thing that I've done over the last couple of years was in 2019, I started to talk about the idea that we were going to have both a supply shock and a demand shock in 2021. Mm-hmm. Or I'm sorry, in 2020. I didn't know when this bull market that we were in was going to end. Nobody knows, right? It's impossible to time these things. But you could tell that we were kind of at late stages of a cycle. There was inverted yield curves. There was gyrations in the repo markets, a lot of CEOs leaving their jobs, all this kind of stuff. And all I said was at some point when the market turns over, the government's going to have to step in. We were addicted to stimulus. They're going to have to manipulate interest rates down, and they're going to have to print money. I had no clue that there was going to be a global pandemic, that they were going to have to step in such an aggressive way and move rates not down, but down to zero. And that they not only were going to print hundreds of billions, but they could print trillions of dollars. But the framework that I used to think about this was when they do that, everyone is going to run to store value assets. They're going to run to gold, they're going to run to Bitcoin, etc. And right as they do that, it appears at the same time there's going to be this supply shock. So you're going to get a supply shock and a demand shock that are both positive for the price. And I called it rocket fuel for Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. Well, it happened. And here we are. I now look forward and I say, okay, we are likely going to see $100,000 Bitcoin this year, right? At some point. I don't know when it happens, but we're moving in that direction.
So you think in 2021 we'll see 100,000?
That would be my most conservative view. I've said $100,000 since 2019, and people thought that was insane and crazy and all this stuff. Now I'm the conservative guy in the room because I stick with the $100,000, and people are saying, multiples of that number.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.